The February meeting of the Middlesex County School Board will come to order. Let us stand and pledge our allegiance to our country. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Good evening, everyone. May I call for any corrections or additions to our agenda?
Yes, I'd like to make a motion that bridging and community presentation be moved to follow educational highlights.
There's been a motion to move the place on the agenda for bridging communities. Is there a second?
Second.
All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Next, we will talk about public announcements. And board members, as you know, February is Black History Month. On February 10th, that's tomorrow, please be present for a joint school board of supervisors work session at 4:30 at the historic courthouse. On February 13th is early release for students and staff at the end of quarter 3. I believe that means that we have one more quarter to go. Hardly seems possible. On the 16th, the schools will be closed in observance of President's Day. On February 23rd, we will have a public hearing on our budget at 6:30 right here. On March the 3rd, I hope that you will join me, and I think Kim is going, and I hope that more of you can attend the VSBA Eastern Region Forum and Art Contest at 4:45 in King William. That's a nice time to meet other board members from other districts in our region. Food has been good the last 2 years that I've attended. And we get to see some really excellent art from students across the region. I think we've even had a winner or two over the years, so let's go and root for MCPS art at the regional forum. On March the 9th, that's Staff Professional Day. Students don't report. I think we can probably count on them for that. And the next regular school board meeting is at 6:30 on March the 9th, right here. Dr. Seitz, do you have any recognitions for us tonight?
I do. I have a few. I'm going to go to the podium. I'm going to ask Dr. Bishop to join me there also. We are going to begin. Now you have to tell me if this is on. Okay. We're going to begin with our Navigators of the Quarter. We do have a presentation for that. As Steve gets set up, I'll let you know that this year every quarter we're honoring all 4 strategic objectives. And so just like we did for the first quarter, we send the nominations out so that staff, students, parents, community can nominate those who represent one of the 4 strategic objective priorities. And as soon as we get that slideshow up, we will start. I can let you know that Dr. Bishop and I, last week, I think on Thursday, visited all of our navigators in their classrooms or in their spaces to congratulate them, and then we invited them to be here this evening so that they could be recognized in front of the school board. So we will. Am I able to work this then? Maybe, maybe not. All right, so the first strategic objective that we will honor and recognize our navigators is for deeper learning. And our first honoree is Allison Blake, who is one of our English teachers at Middlesex High School. So Allison, please come down here. We have certificates. We also have a pen, but it looks like we're missing those this evening, so we will make sure that gets delivered to you in your classroom. Also, for deeper learning, we have Lisa Jett, one of our longtime paraprofessionals at Middlesex Elementary School. We didn't think she was going to be here this evening, so I'm glad she made it. And so now we're going to move on to positive learning environment. That's where we have the largest number of nominees for our Q2 navigators. And so our first person up for positive learning environment is Beth Sprouse, another one of our longtime paraprofessionals at Middlesex Elementary. Beth is also one of our school bus drivers. Next, we want to recognize Brianna Ursing, one of our kindergarten teachers at Middlesex Elementary. Also from Middlesex Elementary, we want to recognize Erin D'Addario, one of our first grade teachers. Next, we will recognize Rhonda Brzezinski. She is a paraprofessional here at St. Clair Walker Middle School. And our last person for positive learning environment is Robin Lambert, who is one of our third grade teachers at Middlesex Elementary. We have two staff that we would like to recognize for capacity building. And the first one is Lonnie Kekoa, one of our school counselors at Middlesex High School. She formerly taught here at St. Clair Walker Middle School. And then our last navigator of the quarter represents Middlesex Elementary School. Marcy Everline is our school nurse there. So these are our navigators of the quarter for quarter two.
Congratulations to all of you. And next, we have educational highlights.
Well, I still have recognitions.
Oh, okay.
I have a few tonight. I have a little bit of a longer list tonight for recognitions. I want to add to that two of our navigators, I was their proud principal when they were middle schoolers here at St. Clair Walker, so it's wonderful to see them come back and now be a part of our education team. So also this evening, February, is also School Board Appreciation Month. And the foundation of student success is year-long leadership and advocacy and support from our school board. We're proud of our division, and School Board Appreciation Month is a time to recognize and celebrate the accomplishments of our elected officials. In Middlesex County Public Schools, school board members must develop policies and make tough decisions on complex educational and social issues impacting the entire community. This board bears the responsibility for an annual budget of $24 million, 1,200 students, 243 employees, and 4 buildings, plus a central office. Too often, we neglect to recognize the dedication and hard work of these men and women who represent us, so thank you all for everything that you do for all of us all the time, for our students, staff, and our community. I also want to recognize our student representative, and that is Caitlin Hargrove, a senior at Middlesex High School. Caitlin, we very much appreciate your participation on the board this year. And then last but not least, it is also next week is School Board Clerk Appreciation. And next week, we will honor and recognize two of our valuable people who, on top of their daily responsibilities of their regular positions within the school division, have an added responsibility as the school board clerk, Ms. Kim Bagby, and then our deputy clerk, Ms. Karen Murray, who just could not be with us tonight. And so we thank you also for everything you do. And I do have certificates for everyone. I have a stack of certificates, actually. And so I will pass these out before the end of tonight's meeting so that we can go forward with our highlights.
Thank you, Dr. Seitz. So now we will have educational highlights. This evening's educational highlights will come from St. Clair Walker Middle School. Dr. Sanders, the floor is yours.
Well, thank you. Good evening. I won't be up here for long because I'm going to turn it over to Mrs. Melville and some of her 7th grade science students who just recently did an owl pellet dissection lab. So they're going to tell you a little bit about that experience. And Ms. Melville, would you like to start off?
Hello, everyone. I'm Ms. Melville, first-year teacher, life science, and along with the Five Ponds Press new curriculum that we've adopted, one of the labs was the owl pellet lab. And thankfully, in my mystery closet, I like to say, I had some owl pellets that we were able to dissect. So I have some STAR students here that are going to briefly tell you a little bit about owl pellets, what we discovered, and how this encouraged, how it expanded our knowledge of owls in general, and figure out where their habitat is, what their prey is, and developing data based off of the information. So I'm going to go ahead and have Bradley come over and talk to you about what an owl pellet is.
An owl pellet is, they're primarily made of fur, feathers, teeth, and nearly intact bones. Fresh pellets are often black and moist, drying into a gray, fuzzy, and odorless plug-like shape. Owls typically cast 1 to 2 pellets per day. Dissecting pellets allows researchers and students to identify the specific prey an owl has eaten.
And we have some owl pellets that Bradley's going to walk up and allow you to observe. They have a bit of a stench, but it's not as strong as it is when we have to dissect it and get a little wet, so we'll appreciate that. So he's going to walk around and show them, and then I'm going to have Tia Hodge and McKenna Haywood come over and talk about the what we find within the pellets, the bones.
So where would you find them?
On the ground.
So this is Tia Hodge and McKenna Haywood, and they're going to just briefly point out some of the bones that they found, or that we've found in the class, and just point out the skeleton.
The main one that a lot of people found in the owl pellet was the skull. And
as well. So those were the easiest to find out, and a femur too.
And the ribs.
And the ribs, yeah, so we can see those different sizes there. And then during class, after we dissected them, they were supposed to sort them out, and using the chart that you see on our board, they were supposed to identify and keep tally of which animal it was, it could possibly belong to. And then we collaborated, or we brought it all together with the whole class. So they're gonna walk around and show you some bones.
And which animal did that come from?
There are some rodents, there are a couple moles. They, those weren't specifically identified, but as you see on the chart, there were a couple, you can see which ones they could have been. Either rodent, shrew, moles, or bird.
Interesting.
And once we were able to get a better understanding of what the prey that were commonly caught by the owl, we were able to better understand the habitat. And so we have an image of a habitat where you would most commonly find an owl. And then that helped us fuel the, or help us create the food chain. And so Jerome Brown is briefly going to talk about the food chain of an owl, starting with the producer.
The main producer in the food chain of a barn owl is grass. Grass is then eaten by grasshoppers, which are eaten by mice, which is then eaten by the barn owl, and then briefly thrown out.
Good job.
And so again, we, as a class, we then tallied out all of our data, and so Max Bauer is going to come over here and talk briefly about the data that we see on the board and some of the conclusions that were brought up based off of the data.
So based on this data that we collected, the owl most likely hunted near an open field where moles are common. The field most likely had trees nearby for the owl to perch on. Also, proven by this data, birds were barely hunted, most likely due to them being harder to catch, or there may have been few birds in the area.
Well, we thoroughly enjoyed this lab. It definitely broadened our understanding of the importance of population data, and we were able to connect it to things that are going on currently with the Potomac River. So I thank you so much for your time, and I thank my students that have worked hard to present to you guys. They're very nervous, but I think they did a great job. So thank you so much.
Well done.
Thank you for that very interesting presentation. I think that we've got some future biology majors here.
I figured this one was a little bit better than the frog dissection.
Yeah, that's always a sad time.
Thank you.
And now we will hear from Dr. Julie Ellis, Executive Director of Bridging Communities Regional Career and Technical Center. Dr. Ellis, the floor is yours.
Thank you. I'm so glad to be here tonight to talk about bridging communities. It's something that I'm proud to talk about every single time I get the chance because I really do believe in what we're doing, and I think it's got an important place in the world right now. So I guess I'm in charge here of driving, is that right? Just the arrows. For those who don't know, and I know most of you on the board are, I know Tom Kennedy is definitely well familiar with us. We are a regional school, which means that it's not just Middlesex students who come to us, it's students from Charles City, King William, King and Queen, New Kent, and West Point. I have the breakdown on the slides there, but New Kent's about half of my students. Middlesex is about 15% with 30 seats paid for. We have two sides to our school, so we have the career and tech side, which is where students are typically going to go to work and then join the workforce immediately after high school. At Bridging, they're learning not only the credentials and the careers that they're getting taught, but they also are getting college credit through most of these programs as well. So on our career and tech side, we have diesel equipment technology, small engine and marine service technology, HVAC and culinary arts. And then on our STEM side, we have nursing, EMT, pharmacy tech, and cybersecurity and game design. All of our programs are 2 years, except for the healthcare, all three of the healthcare programs. They're 1 year each. Nursing and pharmacy are only for seniors, and that's because of the age they need to be to take their credentialing, or the fact we want them to be able to go right out and start putting their skills to use. The EMT students can start when they're 16 years old, so they can do this their junior or their senior year. And we have a number of students who will do EMT their junior year and then move on to either pharmacy or nursing their senior year. One of the most important things, and this is thanks to you guys, is that students who come to Bridging Communities do not have to come out of pocket for tuition. So this is about a $5,500 or so savings to them and to families, so they can explore these career pathways without being limited by resources at home. It also allows them to still be able to participate in their sports. They can still get advanced studies diplomas if they choose, and they also get that college credit. So it's really great that it just reduces barriers for anybody to be able to participate and do well in our programs. What makes us special is we try to make everything as practical and real world every single day as we can. I tell them on day one that I'm going to treat them like employees, and I expect them to respond to me as if I'm their employer, which means that there's a level of expectation that comes in. If you're a paid person, there's something you have to perform every day, and if you're not performing, there's a problem, and our students do rise to the challenge. We make sure that they are on their pathway to be competitive in the market, like in the workforce. We try to really focus on what we used to call soft skills. I'm calling them durable skills because they're the things that really do stick around and make a difference. That hard work, that perseverance, that communication, punctuality, accountability, the ability to shake your hand and look you in the eye and really be someone you can count on at work. So you can learn a lot of skills, but if you don't know those things, that's going to be your barrier to success. If you know those things, you can pretty much do anything you want to do. We do have relevant to the industry credentials, including OSHA, EPA, ASE, EETC. We even have Yamaha University in-house at Bridging. All of our programs have some sort of work-based learning. They all can lead to full-time work. Every student who comes to us can enter right into the workforce, or they can go further with their education. I'm trying to back up, I bumped forward on accident. Right now we have students out in internships. Our nurses do clinicals. Our pharmacy tech students go out for externships and work in pharmacies. Our EMT students are doing ride-alongs with Middlesex, King and Queen, King William, Charles City, and New Kent. All of our HVAC, diesel, small engine are going out 2 days a week to actually make money, work as HVAC techs with places like Ryman's here in Urbana or James River Equipment. We have about 135 internships this year. There we go. I just put up some of the logos because a lot of times we see these as we drive by, but you don't really think about what they are. But these are things that you might recognize locally around here. I know I see most of these places between here and school almost every day. You can see the growth that we've had since 2023. At that time, we didn't send everybody out on internships. It was something that if you had a place to go, we would make sure you could go there. We've really made it an intention right now, so every one of our trades, every one of our health sciences, and as many of our culinary and cyber go out as possible, but culinary and cyber are doing school-based enterprise in-house, so every single person that's coming through Bridging is checking that work-based learning box. What we love is that the trade students who are doing that work-based learning end up with those internships, often getting hired full-time from that internship, and I have someone with me today that's going to show you that, who's a product of his hard work and our success. Where this pays off really for you guys as school boards, I think you probably are well informed about the 3E readiness framework at this point, probably so you're sick about it, but everywhere where I put a checkbox is where they're getting points at Bridging Communities. So not only are they completers, they're doing high demand, high wage programs, they're getting credentials in those programs, and they're dual enrollment, so they get an extra 0.5 points towards the DE side. So it really does help out with accreditation. I think school boards love numbers, so here we go. You can kind of see our growth with Middlesex from 2022-23 with 33 students. To explain where we're down a little bit right now, the junior class that came in last year was just small for some reason. So that junior class has now elevated to senior class, and so you have that still small cohort within the grouping. So we anticipate 23 students, I believe, returning for 26-27, which kind of reduces what we're going to be able to bring in the next cohort. The good news is some of those are one-year programs from health sciences, so it should be about balanced after this school year. And I did also put down the basic overall enrollment for bridging so you can see how we've done over the years. Where we'd like to go from here, and it's all based on money, as everything is, we would potentially like to add an electricity program to train electricians, potentially something with teacher prep, maybe even something with machining, just because there's like factories around that we could put students at, maybe even something like dental assistant. So the short one, the one I think would be most easy to put in quickly would be electricity, but in order for us to add something, it's about $120,000 of an increase to our overall operating budget. I am trying to advocate through the General Assembly right now with Keith Hodges, just trying to get some sort of funding that would be kind of equivalent to how the governor schools are funded. Governor schools get about $4,200 per student from the state, and we get about $200 per student from the state. So we would like that to be a little bit balanced, so we're trying to advocate as much as we can. So any voice that you have to support us on that, we would be grateful for. So, before questions or comments, I have a couple folks here to talk. Our first student that I'd like to invite up is Paige Green Morse, sorry, a junior from Middlesex High School. She is a current student in our EMS program. She has some pretty specific career goals, which bridging is helping her, I think, get in the direction of. So I'm going to let her come up and kind of just speak about her experience at bridging.
Hello. Like Dr. Ellis said, I am a junior. I do the EMS program, and I love it. It is amazing. The kids are amazing. Everybody who's there wants to be there. And that's really important. And that's sometimes something you don't see in a standard classroom. You know, some people want to be at home or doing their job. And I think that this bridging program really gives kids a chance to be hands-on with what they want to do. Not everybody wants to go to school to be a math whiz or, you know, a history major. So I think having a kind of technical vocational program really benefits us. And I'm really excited for next year. I hope to do pharmacy tech. I think that will help with my career and in law enforcement. And I love the environment. Dr. Ellis does a great job keeping things in order, and I think it really, really benefits kids who want to do it. If you don't want to do it, you know, it'll show, and then you'll get talked to, you'll be corrected, we'll see. But if you want to do it, do it. Like, I can't say that enough. I think it's a great program. I have been on 2 ride-alongs so far. I've been able to take blood sugar, take vitals. I think it's really great as I'm a student, but they trust me. They trust the program. They trust my teacher for me to be able to save a life, and I think that's really, really amazing. I think that's all I got.
What are your plans when you graduate from Middlesex?
I hope to go to UVA for sociology of crime along power. I hope to be a social worker or interrogator or help people within the law. Maybe not a lawyer because that takes a little more education, but I think I will find something that will fit me. I'm really excited.
Good luck.
Thank you. Any other
Thank
questions?
you.
All good? Thank you.
So you got to see somebody who's in our program and who actually has more plans to come back to our program next year. I also brought with me today not only an alumni, Cole Harris, who graduated from Middlesex High School in 2023. He actually did his internship, I guess, right at almost 3 years ago now. He started at James River Equipment in Tappahannock. He came straight from work today, so I told him he did not have to dress up. Work clothes are great because that's what he's representing. But I'll also give a shout out to his young lady out here. She's a student from King William who graduated from our nursing program. So not only do we provide education, sometimes you might meet someone that you really like. So Cole, why don't you tell us about you?
Good evening. First, I just want to thank everybody here for providing the opportunities that have furthered my education and furthered my career path. And also Bridging for providing the learning and teachers to get you there. For people like me who kind of know what they want to do in their career path, bridging just makes the whole process a lot easier. From day-to-day learning in the shop and the classroom, bridging has allowed me to find people with the same mindset and goals as me who had harder time working in the classroom. Bridging has made me feel motivated as a student and furthering my education. It helped me build confidence into the transition into my internship with James River, and I'm now a level 3 certified John Deere technician who I hope to be on the path of becoming a roadside technician soon. And pretty much just thank you for investing in my future and helping me get there.
Any questions? It's good to see someone that graduated from Middlesex and stayed in the county to get a job.
Thank you.
Farm equipment.
Yes, sir.
Got a question for you. The newer farm equipment versus the old traditional farm equipment. I'm an old school farmer. So I dealt with the old traditional, open cab, no electronics. That compared to today, what do you think
I think the older stuff is a lot more reliable nowadays.
I know it.
Especially with all the DPF stuff that's on
Yes.
now.
Okay.
It looks like you could make a new friend.
All right, well, thank you.
So really, we just want to thank you, kind of show you what we do, tell you about it a little bit, and just thank you for the opportunities that you continue to provide Middlesex students. I always tell them when I visit that you are really funding the opportunity for Middlesex to be greater than the four walls that it's built around. So providing those opportunities, whether they're still going to college or whether they're just going into the career, the trades, it's just really great. And I love working with them. They're amazing. We do not have discipline issues. We have great students who show up every day who I am proud of to send into the workforce. And I think that you would be proud if you see them walking around too. So thanks so much for having us.
Thank you, Dr. Hollis. Let's see, next, we will have public comment. And I will like to, do we have any people that have signed up for public comment?
We do have one.
All right.
We have Mr. Devin Briggs.
So while he comes down here, I'll remind those who wish to speak, you will be given 3 minutes. Please respect this time limit. Please address your comments to the board as a whole, not to or about individual members of the board, staff, or the audience. And of course, we expect that speakers will exhibit proper decorum when addressing the board.
Good evening.
Time is yours.
Good evening. I just wanted to express my concerns on the recent situation with Coach Bowen, Mark Bowen, and how he's not going to be with us next year. I believe Mark Bowen is a great coach. I played JV football I played JV football this fall. I've been playing football for my entire life, but this is my first time playing for my high school. Coach Bowen was there for me for the first day, learning offensive drills, weight room, all of the important stuff to be a great athlete. He did this with everyone, making an impact on not just me, but the whole team, making us not just good players, but responsible and respectful human beings. From games to team dinners, he was there making us better. It felt like he was a part of my family. He was a part of the team, felt like a family, and that was because of him. His lessons will stay with us long after graduation, after every day I think back on him and things he has told me and the lessons he's shared with me and all of my fellow teammates. So I ask you to please review your decision on allowing him to come back next year to be a part of not just the JV, but the varsity football team. Thank you for listening.
Thank you for your comments. Is that just the
That
only
is
one?
it, just the one.
Right, public comment is closed. So next, we'll go to board member comments and reports. Elliot, anything?
I have absolutely nothing at this time.
Okay.
I second that.
I'm afraid I don't have anything either. We did have a school construction meeting canceled because of the weather, and I think that we will try to get that rescheduled for.
We're trying to get that rescheduled this month, yes.
Okay, so, Tommy?
I actually have some. Bridging Communities, we have our board meeting on February 23rd, so next school board meeting, I should have some from that.
Okay. I bet you Caitlin has something.
So with the high school band program, this past weekend, we had 3 people representing Middlesex at the all-district area band concert. And 1 member is planning on auditioning for the all-state band performance. With the Middlesex High School Key Club, they're in the process of coordinating their annual bake sale. Here at St. Clair Walker, the Builders Club is continuing their art supply fundraiser for VCU Children's Hospital. And last week, I believe it was 9 selected students traveled to the Deltaville Library to assist them in designing their new teen space. And lastly, just before next month's meeting, we'll have 6 Middlesex High School seniors presenting their research projects at the annual Chesapeake Bay Governor's School Science Symposium.
Thank you, Caitlin.
Just to elaborate a little bit on what Caitlin said, that area band is a really good thing. I had the privilege to play in that band when I was in school.
Oh,
And
what did you play?
sax.
Saxophone?
Yep.
I thought you were gonna ask him what year did he
Oh,
play.
no.
And
They still have
if you've been
saxophone.
to a basketball game and heard our pep band, they are good. I mean, that's all I can say. They're good. They are very good. And if you get a chance to hear them, you'll be impressed.
Well, then I'll do a little bragging too, that if you have a chance, it's March the 8th, I believe. It's a Saturday at VCU. That's when the Chesapeake Bay Governor's School Symposium takes place, when the students go up there and they present their research. And it is awesome. It is truly remarkable what they can accomplish. So I'll have more to say about that next month, because I will be attending that symposium. But now, some action items.
I was say I got one more if we're gonna do that one. We got
Caitlin triggered all these
yeah.
reports now.
No, just since we're talking about upcoming events and all that, we got TSA on February 21st is a regional competition down south. So we have quite a few students going down there to represent us there. So hopefully they'll do well and go on to state.
Excellent. We'll hear more about that maybe next month.
Yep.
So now, let's have some action items. Dr. Seitz.
Action items. So the first thing I have is the 26-27 calendar. So I presented the draft at last month's meeting. At that time, I'd let you know that we had a survey that was sent out. We received the results on that, analyzed the results. They were discussed at both our administrative council meeting that we held last month, and then also reviewed by our Superintendent's Advisory Committee, which we held that meeting virtually last week on one of our snow days. We have one change to the calendar that was presented last month, and that is August 14th. We had it listed as a workday, and it really should be an MCPS is still closed on that Friday day. The pre-service work days for teachers are 7 days and not 8 days. So the calendar you have in your packet does have that adjustment. I can let you know there were some other things and topics that we did discuss in our administrative council. First was flexible days. There were some staff that had asked for flex time during the pre-service days. It was we had done that a few times in the past, where if they worked a day over the summer, they didn't have to come in on the pre-service days. What we found out is that not having all of our staff back on campus at the same time really impacted the level of trainings that we needed to offer. And so we did away with that. I think a couple of years ago, we did discuss it at Admin Council, and we are not moving back to flexible days during that time. Another thing that we discussed was Thanksgiving break. We have seen a number of divisions move to taking that entire week off on the week of Thanksgiving. We did look at that. Currently, we go to school on Monday and Tuesday for full days. We looked at making that adjustment. The obstacle was now there's 2 other days that you've got to lose during the calendar. So you lose some other holiday time or professional days. The professional days are very valuable to us, and they are strategically placed within the calendar, and I don't think anybody wanted to give up Christmas or spring break just to have a longer Thanksgiving. And so we also opted not to make any changes to that schedule. The last thing we talked about were the parent-teacher conferences in February. They will take place later this week. We did add them to this year's calendar based on parent feedback when we did the calendar survey last year. So we've not had those conferences yet, so we have not had the opportunity to see whether they really benefited our program or if the participation was low. And so because of that, we are keeping the same schedule for parent-teacher conferences. Other big things, I think I pointed this out at last month's meeting, but I'll say it again for the record, is that the first day of school is tied to the Virginia code. We are not a school division that qualifies for waivers because of heavy snow or things like that. And so the first day required student attendance can be no earlier than 14 days before Labor Day. Because of that, it does shift our calendar a week later than it did last year. That's what puts our start date as August 24th for the 26-27 school year, because Labor Day is a little bit later. So of course it pushes our end date to June 4th instead of the end of March like it is this year. So that is tied to Virginia code. There were some there was some feedback on could we go back to a post-Labor Day start. That is not a consideration for us. We started this, I think, back in 2020 with a pre-Labor Day start when it was allowed through the legislature, and that would push us even further into June, like a June 18th end date if we did that, and does not align to our programs, which leads me into spring break. This calendar, I should point out, is an academic calendar. And our spring break is aligned to our regional programs. Dr. Ellis just presented on Bridging Communities. That's a program that we have close to 30 students in. Chesapeake Bay Governor's School, and then we do partner with King and Queen County Schools where we send our JROTC students. And so our schedule needs to coordinate with all of those programs, and so that the students at the high school don't get a break in instruction either at the high school or in any of their programs. And so for that, the spring break that we have, that you saw on last month's calendar, stays the same as in this calendar so that those programs stay aligned. So I'm happy to answer questions. Otherwise, this is the calendar I present to you this evening for approval.
Other questions, comments? I just have one comment. The Chesapeake Bay Governor's School will start 2 weeks, at least now it's scheduled to start 2 weeks before we start in for the first quarter. I raised that concern at the last meeting, and they said they would take a look at maybe at least moving that 1 week closer to our start date. I haven't heard anything, but I will check that out. So do I hear a motion to approve the 2026-2027 calendar?
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Are there any further comments? Hearing none. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And we have another action item.
Yes, I'm going to turn that over to Dr. Bishop, and he's going to present to you the school improvement plans for both the elementary school and middle school. It's tied to the federal identification for those schools. If you remember, I presented on that. I guess that was last month, school performance framework. And so you've got the entire application that is in your packet, but Dr. Bishop is prepared to give an overview of both of those application packets.
Wait for that. Oh, good. Come on.
as that first slide comes on, I'm gonna, it's okay. This is, I'm seeking your approval on two multi-year school improvement plans. Steve has that up. Not that one. It's a different one. It's, all right. Well,
You
I'm
can
a
just
charge,
go
I'm a
ahead.
charge forward.
Yeah,
Okay.
just keep going.
So
It's
we
a
have
lot of
this,
words.
we have a multi-year school support plan. It details the continuing work of our CSIPs, the principals, their team members, their teachers, specialists have all looked at this. And and this details EBIs, which is evidence-based interventions. And these have to come from the What Works Clearinghouse. And it has to be a tier 1, tier 2, or tier 3. So a high level of those interventions that would provide structure and meaning for students to progress. Remember, the schools have been identified, the elementary school and the middle school have been identified as a targeted school, school for improvement. And so that is a reason why we have these multi-year school support plans. And basically what we have done is looked at our comprehensive school improvement plan along with the structure that they have provided. And part of that, so let me talk about Middlesex Elementary School. They have evidence-based interventions. For math, one of those interventions was use of concrete representational and abstract thinking and using of manipulatives. So it's really looking at, we do this anyway, and we look at using clear, concise mathematical language. That's another thing that we do. So it has to be baked into that, which you have a copy of the multi-year MSSP. So we use those for reading. It's teaching students to decode words and analyze word parts. And using comprehensive building practices to help students make sense of text. And in science, because students with disabilities at the elementary school, math, reading, and science, they were lower than the comprehensive school improvement schools, and so we had to have a plan, we had a plan for all three different content areas. And in terms of science, to be honest with you, at the What Works Clearinghouse, there's nothing specifically for science, so we looked at those fluency building activities, so having students read and also having students comprehend, because building that background knowledge is shown to improve that. So our action steps, which correlate again with the CSIP, we look at the results from the students, we have team meetings and weekly data meetings and quarterly progress meetings to track student growth. Of course, we use our evidence-based interventions that align with our HQIM, which is our high-quality instructional materials. We have collaborative instructional planning, targeted professional development, and so we're kind of using more of that within this CSIP. And also we have these walkthroughs with our principals. So looking at what we expect the teachers to do in terms of their high quality instructional materials, and giving them feedback and helping them modify their instruction. So that's the elementary part. So along with the MSSP for the elementary, we've created what you have in your packet. But then we also have a grant that we have developed, which includes professional development, Ignite, more licenses for Ignite, which is the small tutoring. It also includes manipulatives, things like that. So that is something that we're sending to the state tomorrow along with the MSSP. In terms of St. Clair Walker, we also had to choose evidence-based interventions. And those were teaching students how to use visual representations in math, exposing students to multiple problem-solving strategies. We do that. It's just we need to confirm with the state and how that kind of braids with that evidence-based interventions. We do number talks for our math classes. So we have a problem, students think about that problem, they discuss how they solved it, and it's almost a debate to figure out like what is the best way to solve this math problem, or what is a different way to solve the math problem. So having students think about different ways to solve math problems. And for reading, we're building decoding skills so they can read complex multisyllabic words. So breaking those words apart, putting them together, looking at the roots of the words, the prefixes and the suffixes, and then also using comprehension building practices. So that's the evidence-based interventions. Along with that, and we have action steps. Data-driven meetings to use diagnostic tools. We have VALS, which is a Virginia language literacy screener. We use that at the middle school level for those students that are struggling with reading. Implementing tiered interventions, which includes Lexia, Rewards, which is a small group instructional practice that is given by our teachers and our special education teachers. And we also have Math Space, which is our HQIM, but it also has built-in kind of screeners questions to figure out where those students are needing the most help. We're also continuing to look at how we are using our gen ed teachers and our special ed teachers to work together and pushing into that general ed classroom. It's really a push to have that both teachers working together. We have Kate Mesner and Bailey Hooper, who are models in Region 3 in that practice. So we're really leaning on them to help with that. We have standard-based research routines in the daily lessons for student mastery, and we also, again, have those fidelity walkthroughs. So along with the evidence-based strategies that we pull from what works that align with our CSIPs, we also have action steps. And all those action steps may have a cost, and basically we've asked the state to help us with that, those costs. So that's the MSSP is in your packet. Kind of a brief overview of the EBIs and the action steps that we're using, and I'm requesting your approval on those plans. And any questions from the school board?
Are there any questions? I have one question. So we're already doing most of these things, correct?
We are. We have we have high quality instructional materials. We have the assessments that are, built by our, Dr. Walsh built a lot of the assessments to make sure they have the rigor and that they are aligned to the standards. We have principals who are in the classrooms. So all of these things are already being done, yes.
So why would we expect a different result?
Because we are continuing to make improvements on all of those things. Having a collaborative classroom with special ed teacher in the classroom, we're providing training for that. We're also seeking training for the SIM model, which is the strategic intervention model from Kansas Strategies. So although the EBIs are what we're doing, we're also having more action steps that are in place.
So
professional development is
a different approach.
Different supports, I should say. We're looking at like grassroots, which is a professional development for our math teachers to increase their capacity to build thinking classrooms, and looking at using concrete representational and abstract. It just puts more focus on those specific things that we're doing in the school. And it actually, if we are on the right course, and any change in that course I think would be detrimental to our program.
If I may jump in also, just to, this is one of the hoops we have to jump through for the support. I'll go back to in June when I've shared at a couple of meetings at our administrative retreat, when we dissect that data at that time, the data hasn't changed. The only thing that we found out was different was in December, we found out from the state that we were identified federally for some subgroups. And so we already this summer started to work on things such as the high quality instructional materials, ensuring we were teaching to the level, our assessments and our instruction were at the level that they needed to be in order to meet those requirements at end of course testing and then the SOLs for in grades 3 through 8. And so, yes, there's a plan that has to be approved by the school board because that's required by the state because of federal identification. The things that we put in place at the beginning of the year, which were new and improved and refined based on our strategic plans, haven't changed. I'll give you just an example of some of these deadlines. We found out, the second week of December, I think, that we were identified. They had the first webinar for us, I think the second week of January, and said that this multi-page, I keep saying application, it's not an application, a plan. The multi-page plans were due February 6th and had to be approved by your school board. We just had the meeting 3 weeks ago, maybe, in order to write these plans that they have spent hours now and days working on. Part of it is an application for some grant funding, which is very specific in what it can be used for and what it cannot be used for, which we will apply for, but that money's got to be expended by September. We are over halfway through the school year. So again, we can't make a big shift and all of a sudden we're going to do something new and different, which is exactly what I told our teachers when I met with our staff to let them know that we were identified. We are continuing to refine what we're doing and ensuring that the things that we identified at the very beginning of the year through our strategic plan are being implemented and implemented with fidelity. This helped us maybe dive a little bit deeper and see if there are some extra things that can be purchased to be used, but I will tell you that was a difficult task also because of the strict criteria on the use and the fact that it's all got to be spent by September 30th.
Sounds illogical, but I guess
It is.
it is what it is. Are there any questions?
Based on that, I have a question. When are we up for reevaluation to see if we implement these plans, we need to change them? Because you said we were identified last year. When will we be up for re-identification so that way we'll know a time frame if these plans that we implement are doing what they need to do, or we need to change course? Because this is a 3-year plan.
It's a 3-year plan. We will see improvement this year, but it's a slow, it's not like slow progress, but different cohorts, different students, we're measuring different students every year within the school. So the comprehensive school improvement, schools with comprehensive school improvement, that number that we're based reflects on how we identify the targeted school improvement. That changes yearly. That floats back and forth.
So the target will
depends
move
if we're
every year
above it
also.
or below it.
The
So
threshold
we'll
will
know
move.
that, and I don't know when we'll find that. We found out in December of this year, and I hope we'll find out sooner.
Now, I'm just trying to make sure, so this plan it's fluid enough that if we need to make changes based on the next assessment, we will be able to?
It is, and it's based on really good research. We have a very good, solid understanding of what the science of reading is, and we have a really good understanding of what numeracy and how to teach math. And we have good, high-quality instructional materials, and we're purchasing the appropriate interventions and adjusting schedules, and weekly and monthly looking at student data by student and skill by skill to provide those services to those students. Very hands-on principles to your left, to your right.
Thank you, Dr. Bishop. So we need a motion to approve the plan. Do I hear a motion?
So move.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded. Any further discussion, questions? All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Motion carries. And next, it looks like we have information items. The budget.
Yes,
Again.
I will go to the podium for that as I throw my pen in the floor. And that will be a budget presentation.
Which we have right here.
Let's see if I can use this. I don't know that I can. All right, so I will start with our strategic plan because all of our decisions, including our budget, are based on our mission of engaging, inspiring, and empowering our students. If I can figure out how to use this. All right, and so just like we recognized our navigators of the quarter for quarter two for our 4 key strategic objectives: deeper learning, positive learning environment, capacity building, and community engagement. Those are also the driving forces behind what we do, including establishing our budget. All right, so making sure I'm lined up with and I haven't gone too far. All right, so I don't think this is new news to you, but that a budget is an estimate of revenues and expenditures for a set period of time, which for us will be FY27, based on sound information. The Board of Supervisors is our appropriating body for our local funds, and then you, the school board, is the governing body for approval of that budget that we will use. And so the variables related to the budget, we essentially have 4 buckets of funds that come to us. You'll see the state, it looks like it's a larger category there. Technically, it's not. Our local operating funds is where we get the most money from. But explaining where the money comes from at the state level, it is based on current enrollment, which we call our ADM, or average daily membership. The current FY26 budget was based on 1170 because we predicted that's the number of students that we would have, K-12 students, I should say, that we would have for this year to receive the funding from the state. We currently are at 1130. I think I've shared already in other meetings that we had a smaller than usual kindergarten class. We've had some families move out. We've lost a handful of kids probably to homeschool. And then we are somewhat of a transient community, and so we've had some shifting back and forth with families and numbers there. And so looking at FY27, we have built a budget based on an ADM of 1130. What that means is if we go back to a normal size, or what we consider a normal size kindergarten classroom, it would raise the amount of funds that we would get from the state level. And so also what figures into that is our LCI, or our composite index. Happy to share that that has dropped slightly. You'll see it's still a 0.6207, which is pretty high for the state. However, it is down from a 0.6389. And what that means essentially is that the state looks at Middlesex County as having the ability to pay for 62% of a school funding budget. It is also, the funding is based on the standards of quality programs. You've heard me talk about those before, I believe. A lot of our positions are funded by the standards of quality, or we consider them SOQ funded. You'll hear us speak about that. In Middlesex, about 55% of our positions are considered SOQ funded positions. And so I'm not on that slide quite yet, Federal funding is a smaller portion of what we receive. That includes IDEA, or Individuals with Disabilities Act. It funds our students with disabilities, or portions of what their education looks like. We receive 5 different title funds from Title I to Title V. What they cover are improving basic programs, supporting effective instruction, English as a second language, supporting student enrichment in rural and low income, and then we also receive Perkins funds, which are vocational education funds federally. The smallest bucket is our other funding, and that includes tuition from non-resident students. Anytime we get rebates, refunds, donations, and grants that's already not allocated to a certain area, it goes into what we call the other funding, and then our E-rate, which pays for our internet. And then local, which for us actually is the largest bucket, and that is comes from our local Board of Supervisors, operation portion. And then again, if we're basing it on the LCI, we would expect 62% of our budget is covered locally. And so if we go to the next slide, this just gives you an overview or a chart of what those funding sources represent. You can see locally, we've got 61.4%. That would be the local portion, which is down from last year. Last year, we were depending on 62.3%. State funding is up some this year, almost 35%. Last year, it was just a little over 33%. And then again, the other 2 buckets are pretty small. Federal funds comprise about 3.5% of our budget, and then other is 0.3%. So just very, very small there. And so on the next slide, we will look at, this one actually shows the exact numbers of state, federal, and other funds. You'll see for state funding, it is up about 9% this year. A couple of things factor into that. Are that our LCI comes down, which means more funding from the state. There was also in the governor's budget, and so all of these numbers were operating on Governor Youngkin's budget that was proposed in December of 2025, which we know we will expect some changes to that. But there was some additional money that came into basic aid programs, and then with our LCI going down, we are forecasted to receive more state funds. Federal funds down slightly, a little over 4,000, and then other funds down about 10,000. We did receive our last 2 SREC payments, and that was from the solar agreement that we have with SunTribe, that's now Madison Energy, but we received our last 2 payments. I think that was a 5-year plan. 2 of them carried over into FY26, and that's completed, and that's why you see a reduction of about $10,000 in the other fund category. And so that's our revenue. Next slide, we're going to look at the things that impact our expenses, and you'll see we've got 4 areas there. Positions is usually a large one that will affect expenses going into the next year. I can say that we have no new positions that we are requesting for FY27. In fact, we have eliminated 2 positions. We shared this and discussed this at the work session. One is a mathematics teacher at Middlesex High School, and then the other is the pre-K coordinator at the elementary school. So that's not an increase, that's a saving certainly in the positions category. Health insurance, we are still waiting on those final numbers. We have built in a 15% increase, built that into the budget, so that would be covered by the school division and not passed on to our staff. And we are hoping to receive some exact numbers by the middle of this month. In this other category for instruction, inflation, operations, a few things factor into there. We've increased lines for substitutes, professional development, and tuition reimbursement because we're seeing increased needs there. We naturally have inflation increases in utilities, purchase services, and subscriptions. And then we've got some one-time purchases on the operations side of the house. I'd shared with you in the work session about purchasing the open gate weapons detection and getting rid of the evolved system we have because it's a leased system and the contract has expired on that. And we are looking at some carpeting and reflooring replacement at the high school, and then acoustic tiles at the elementary school. All of those are one-time purchases. And the operations department would certainly increase what the cost is for FY '27. And then compensation is always an expense, typically an expense increase, and I'm going to go into a little bit more detail in compensation as I move through the presentation. And so if we go to the next slide, you can see that this is the comparison we give you every year with the 10 divisions that are closest to size. These are Region 3 divisions. We do not include everyone in Region 3 because we've got Stafford, Spotsylvania. Those are much larger divisions, and so we include the 10 most similar to size than us, as I said, and closest to us. This is difficult to see, so we're going to move to the next slide. And you'll see this is where we do our comparison of where we rank. For steps 1 and 2, we are at the bottom of the list. Step 10, we start to move up a little bit. We're 9th out of 10th place and 8th. We do come up to 6th, and then we go back down, so you see that we never get up to the middle, which is a 5, and then we start to come back down. We lose about 20% of our instructional staff each year to either retirement or resigning, or most of the time, if they are resigning, they are leaving the education field. When I looked at the staff who left us last school year, I think we had 19 teachers, 15 retired or left the field of education totally. The other remaining ones did move, either moved closer to, they moved to teach in the division in which they already lived to reduce their commute. But for the bulk of them who left, excluding their retirements, I think there was 4, they left education. And so when we look at what's required to be a teacher in the Commonwealth of Virginia, it's not just a bachelor's degree, it's a teaching endorsement through the Virginia Department of Education. Virginia has one of the highest standards for teacher endorsement in the nation, making it a little bit more difficult than some other neighboring states possibly. We struggle to hire, this is the area that we struggle to hire the most, and this is the area that requires the most education. We already know that teachers put their own money into their classroom supplies, into what they do for their children. I was just in the office last week, and a teacher was saying, I can't buy anything else for my students, my wife is going to kill me. And he was working on some other fundraising options for his class to be able to do the things that they are doing, which is important to their learning. But he said, I just can't keep pulling it, I can't keep pulling it out of my pocket. And so, as I mentioned, we're not just competing with other school divisions, we are now also competing with the private sector, which offers an either equal or higher wage, but allows people often to work from home, or at least at a minimum to take out a lot of the stressors that our teachers do have in the classroom. And so because of that, the budget that I'm presenting tonight does include the compensation increase for teachers is a step plus 4%, that's equal to 5.3%. And then for all of our other staff is a step plus 3%, which is equal to 4.3%. And so if we go to our next slide, and I should say, please, I am rolling through this. I know we've talked about most of this in the work session. I'm rolling through it pretty quickly, but please stop me if you want to pause on something for us to have a conversation or answer a question on that particular slide. Otherwise, we can certainly have discussion at the end. And so this shows you what it looks like, the percentages of where our money goes, because we're categorically funded. That's something that our Board of Supervisors chooses. A school division can be categorically funded, or they can be lump sum funded. And ours stays with the categorical funding. I can let you know that in Region 3, 11 out of the 17 school divisions are lump sum funded. And so what that means is, if we need to shift money from, let's say, transportation into operations and maintenance, it doesn't mean going back to the school board to explain what that shift is and getting approval for that shift. We just were able to make the shift based on school board approval internally. And so this is how it breaks up because we're categorically funded. You can see that instruction is the bulk of the budget, which is required. I can let you know that administration and health, it's administration, health, and attendance actually, and that is made up of central office staff, school board members, nurses, divisions, social worker, division psychologist, our speech language pathologists, so it may be less people, but you're looking at positions excluding the school board members, positions that are at the specialist, director, and central office level, so on a higher pay scale there. Debt service includes our energy savings contract, still paying for the renovations at the high school. The elementary school has almost been paid for, and then the HVAC units at the elementary school. And so those fall under the debt service category. And so if we go to the next slide, this shows you, as I mentioned, well, actually I didn't mention, this actually shows you where the bulk of our expenditures go by the type. You can see that salary and benefits are our largest expense in the school division. And what makes up the other charges, just for your information, are utilities, insurance, leases and rentals, travel, dues and memberships. Those fall into other. You'll see we have tuition on there. We do pay tuition to Bridging Communities. Dr. Ellis shared that with you. To the Chesapeake Bay Governor School, our JROTC students. We have students who also attend welding classes at RCC, and then the students who attend the regional special education program. And so that's what the tuition category is. And so if we go to the next slide, which represents salaries, again, you'll see that the bulk of that, 80% of the salaries go to the instructional staff. So that just shows you a breakdown of those 4 areas of salaries. And then if we go to the next slide, you will see this is where our capital improvement projects are, which we discussed in our work session, just for the good of those listening to the presentation. This includes 2 diesel school buses. We had a replacement cycle before we got the electric school buses, where we did 1 school bus 1 year and then 2 the next, 1, 2, 1, 2, to keep up with and keep in line with the requirements from VDOE. We got away from that when we had the opportunity to get some electric buses through grants, and so we are trying to get back on that cycle. So 2 buses would be at a cost of $305,000. Rooftop units at the high school, you probably remember I had these on here last year at $80,000, and so when we went back to that vendor, they said, oh no, we made a mistake, that's not the number we should have given you. We actually could not get 1 rooftop unit for that number that they gave us. And so it's 2 units that are needed at the high school. They are near end of life. I have asked Dustin to give me some more specifics on that, but I told him not to go down a long trail of how old they are and everything that's been replaced, because that's really not where his time is best spent, but so that I can give you and the Board of Supervisors a little bit of information on them. But they are in near end of life and the repairs that are required. And then the third item, which definitely is a large ticket item, the track is in need of repair, not just a refurbish, but we've got some issues going on there that does need to be addressed sometime in the near future. We did add in the cost of a pole vault. If you remember, it was either last year or year before last, we had a student come before the board and request that we add pole vault because she was a pole vaulter and could not compete at our home event. It's a quite expensive add-on, and so when we looked at if we needed a larger track repair, it would be the time to bring that in, is simply why that is added on there. You can see there's a significant cost to that also. And so certainly we could, if we get to a point where we need to rank these, and we discussed that at the work session, we would be able to do that.
So that's priority order, right?
Right now, they're not in any order.
I think at our work session, we said that would be the priority.
At work session, we said rooftop, bus, track, bus. I believe is what we said at the work session. Yeah. And so that's something we can discuss. We can discuss there. I've had a little bit of conversation with Mr. Walker and Mr. Harris, being Mr. Don Harris, about things that we'll be bringing to the work session for tomorrow. The immediate, the units are a more immediate and at least one bus or more of an immediate there when we look at our CIP needs. And so if we go to our next slide, which is an overview of the revenue, and so again, it shows you where we have an increase in state funding, slightly down in federal, slightly down in other. It's the bottom, which I know is hard to see on the screen if you're in the audience, but the bottom section there, the operation and debt service, is what comes from local funds. And so when we're looking at an increased ask from last year, if we're just looking in the operation, we're just under 155,000 or 1.2%. Debt service is an additional $200 or $234. So when we look at the total local ask, we are looking at a 1.1% increase over what we were funded for this fiscal year from our locality. And so again, we know that these are not final numbers. These were Governor Youngkin's proposed budget in December of 2025. The House and Senate are in session now. Crossover day for bills is coming up, I think, on the beginning of next week. And then we will start to see what some funding looks like on both the House side and the Senate side. And then, of course, everything comes to the governor's office for a final number. It is the long session, and so it does go until mid-March. I am hopeful and crossing fingers that we'll have a final budget at that time. It would be nice. If we don't have a final budget at that time, we will likely still operate on what the Governor Youngkin proposed in December until we've got some final numbers. All the conversations I have had, both locally and at the state level, have said that we should not expect the funding to get worse for us, and so we'll, again, probably keep our fingers crossed that that's the case. And so these numbers are based on an enrollment of 1130, compensation increase of a step plus 4% for teachers and a step plus 3% for all other staff. It does include the elimination of 2 positions, health insurance, a 15% increase that's absorbed by the school board budget, and then all naturally occurring increases, inflation, a couple of one-time operation purchases. And so we have a work session tomorrow with the Board of Supervisors. We have our public hearing on the budget that we are proposing on February 23rd. Then if we need to make any changes, I'll come back to you at the March meeting and bring you a budget at that time for your approval. So just a couple of more slides as reminders. The next slide just reminds us all that all 3 of our schools are fully accredited, which we celebrate. And then the slide after that, a reminder of our celebrations and where we fared on our leaderboard for Region 3 with our schools ranking number 1, number 2, number 3 in some areas. And then the growth we're still seeing in areas that are not necessarily reported on the performance framework. And so with that, that concludes my presentation. Happy to answer questions or engage in any other discussion related to the budget.
Questions? The schedule that we have a deadline to present a budget to the Board of Supervisors is what?
April 1st.
So that would be after the long session is over?
It will be after the long session is over. And so what?
Supposed to be over.
Supposed to be over. And so I'm hopeful that it will have ended and we will have some real numbers. If not, we will go, and if there have not been any other amendments to the budget, we will go on the numbers that we have now as what we are forecasting receiving from the state.
Okay. Be nice if they marry it up.
It would be great.
All right, thank you, Dr. Seitz. And would you like to have the floor again for your report?
I will do that. And so I have superintendent's report next. I do have a few things to update you on. So you can see that a bulk of the work that's been going on now, especially in my office, has been budget, and with Dr. Bishop's office and our principals has been getting this multi-year plan together. I mentioned that we have a work session for tomorrow. Something I need to make you aware of is that we have discovered a water leak at the high school, a significant water leak when we got our bill for last month. Is how we discovered it. Dustin has found out we have 4 water mains at the high school. The other schools, I think, just have 1. They have narrowed it down to 1 water main, but that 1 main was, we used about 250,000 gallons of water in that 1 main, which should have only been about 20,000 gallons of water. At the time, we weren't seeing or hearing anything, so it was the bill that discovered it. Our operations team they were able to narrow it. They have not been able to find the leak yet. They may have had some tip-offs today, I hear maybe, but I have not confirmed that with Dustin. So the next step was to bring in Aqua, which is who we get our water service from. It is our problem somewhere. When you walk into the front of the school, everything straight down the hall and to the left is what it's affecting. And so the 200 hall going by Mrs. Fleet's office and then going down to the east wing, you know the part we want to tear down and rebuild? So that area, down past the nurse's clinic into the band. So that's the area that 1 water main feeds. We made the decision on Friday afternoon to shut that down, and it will stay shut down until we can determine where the leak is and how we can appropriately fix the leak. Yes, it shuts down some bathrooms, but it does not cut off access to bathrooms or sinks or anything that our students and our staff need. So I'll continue to keep you updated on that when we find out what the problem might be there. You're aware that we've had some snow and ice, and so unfortunately, our buildings were closed for 4 days. We were able to provide remote learning for 3 of those days. One of those days was an official snow day. In order to provide a remote learning day, we have to send work home, have access to staff, and we have to send food home. And so the food was a very quick turnaround for Chris McBurney, our operations department, when we realized that was a component to the remote learning. They did a fabulous job of turning that around, getting things packed, and getting food distributed to students who needed to take that home. Our teachers were able to also get things prepared and get those home for our students. I've got to give a big shout out to our operations department. And so Dustin Harris, who you all have met and worked with and presented as our director of operations, but Carly Willard, Jeff Waters, and Travis Smeltzer were out in the freezing cold and in the ice and getting our sidewalks clear, getting our parking lots clear. Fortunately, we had a couple of slips but no injuries, so no workman's comp issues that we need to report there, but they just stayed at it. As soon as the sun came up and started shining on areas, they were diligent about getting those lots and sidewalks cleared, which was a huge task. And so on that Thursday, when they finished those things up, all of our drivers came in and drove their routes, not necessarily in their buses, but they drove their routes to see what roads still were not safe for a bus to go down. We have to look at how the bus goes down the lane. We have to look at where the bus turns around also to make sure both of those things are safe. So our drivers drove those routes and then came back, reported that, and Dustin and Billy worked on what roads we could not go down and how many routes that impacted. I can tell you that impacted 15 of our 19 routes, but we were determined we were going to get school open on Friday. And so calls went out to parents that were affected that maybe we need your child to come out to this end of the road or here, store for a pickup. So it did affect our attendance somewhat, but we were able to get open last Friday. So shout out to everybody that was involved. That was 100% of our staff was involved in getting things cleared and opened, and meetings were still being held. IEP meetings, eligibility meetings were being held. Superintendent's advisory, we met virtually, and so everything was still moving, even though it may not have been moving that quickly in our parking lots and on our back roads. And so the last thing I want to share with you from my report, as Dr. Burnett shared, it is Black History Month, and so we have lots of things going on in our schools. This is just a sampling at the elementary school. Our fifth graders will be working on their wax museum. If you've not been to the school to visit when they do those, it is just amazing to see what the research the kids do, and they dress the part and act the part of the character that they have done their research on. And so their research, their writing, they're presenting, and it's just fun to see the kids do it. In the morning announcements at the elementary school, they've been celebrating by announcing Black history icons. Every day, they've gone from Thurgood Marshall, Ruby Bridges, Aretha Franklin, the list goes on because it lasts for the whole month, obviously. At St. Clair Walker, sixth graders have discovered contributions of other Africans during the American Revolution, which is part of what they study in history in sixth grade. They're exploring the Finding Freedom map through the Museum of American Revolution, so other outside resources that they're bringing into the classroom. In seventh grade, they've researched and created posters about African American mathematicians who've done research related to things that they're learning and things that we use every day. And so they're learning who was it that invented that item. In eighth grade, they've explored a Black entrepreneur of their choice, and they will compose a biography presentation of the individual, detailing how they got their start, what obstacles they faced, and where they are today. And it goes on even in our art classes and learning about some famous African American artists. At Compass Academy, the students are researching famous Black Virginians to support their field trip to the Black History Museum, which they will be visiting on March 4th. They are also partnering with the Science Museum of Virginia's Forge to create a quilt that represents personal identity and coded messages, and that is tied directly to their discussion and research on the Underground Railroad quilt codes, which were used to support their safety as they traversed. And then lastly, at the high school, the English departments are focusing on Black American authors. English 9 specifically is participating in a poetry unit on Black American poets. They're going to evaluate those poems. And then The Long Way Down by Jason Reynolds, who is a modern Black American author. They've done some research and they're looking into what he has written. And then even in our economics and personal finance class, they are exploring Madam C.J. Walker and her business acumen, and how you'll have to do some research on her and how she was the first woman to make millions in the late 1800s and 1900s. And she was an African-American member of our country. And so that does conclude my superintendent's report for the evening, but I'm happy to answer any other questions that you have.
Questions or comments?
You know, we did have a local gentleman that was an inventor, and his wife actually taught in the Middlesex school system. Larry will probably know exactly who I'm talking about. Miss Carrie Chandler. Her husband invented the oyster shucker.
We will have to make sure our classes know that and can share more details on that for us.
Do some research.
Yeah. You can find anything on the internet these days.
He lived right up in Jamaica.
Thank you very much. And now, is there any old business? Is there any new business? All right, then, pursuant to the Code of Virginia, the school board will enter closed session to discuss personnel matters, student matters, and/or legal matters. May I have a motion to enter closed meeting?
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried.
Yes, all of it. I forgot there's thank you notes from the kids in there.
You remember the challenge? Live up in Jamaica. Yeah. Yes.
But that's not the original.
No. The original home was, I was back in the woods a little bit further. Yeah, she taught me. Miss Carrie? good boy.
Chair will entertain a motion to go out of closed session.
So move.
Second.
Pursuant to the Code of Virginia, the board discussed personnel matters, student matters during the closed session. Matters discussed in closed session have been added to the consent agenda and other parts of the agenda as action and information items. Members of the board, please certify that only lawful matters were discussed in closed session. Board members will respond by roll call vote.
Dr. Burnett,
Yes.
Mr. Kennedy,
Yes.
Mrs. McMinn,
Yes.
Mr. Reed,
Yes.
Ms. Robbins.
Yes.
Okay, may I have a motion to approve the consent agenda?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
The motion is carried. And may I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
We are adjourned.
All right, I have you, don't run off, I have your certificates. So attached to your certificates are thank you notes that some students, pass that to Karen. These are copies, they are at the,
Yeah, me too. Jamming me up a little bit.
I can go to one thing.
I'm sorry. Thank you notes. Kids have written better copies on there.
Oh, that's so nice.
Some of them might be entertaining, but.
I'll enjoy that.
And the pen.
Mom?
4:30.
Question for you.
See everybody.
4:30 tomorrow, correct?
Good. It's that time of year I get to see y'all more and more, which is always a good thing. I'm not complaining.
Kelly.
Did you see the